all hear me, right? Because I've been having issues with the internet all day long. Trying to make sure you can hear me before I start reading.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you, Miss Pena. Pena came late. Make sure I mark you in attendance, Pena. Actually, I'll do that now because I'll forget. I think Selena popped in too, right? Pena. Solano here. Yes. Is Aaron here? Yes. He's not here. All right, so again, make sure that you're following. We're going to read. Just reattached it. We're only going to read chapter 14. Who can tell me what happened at the end of chapter 13? See if you guys remember. What was the last thing that happened? Does anybody remember? From Friday. What was the last thing?
Didn't he try to sneak over and then the door was closed?
Yeah, exactly. So that's basically what happened. So Luke recognizes that there's somebody next door. He's been staring at the house, got all kinds of clues. Then he just finally musters up the courage to go. When he gets to the door, it's locked, and that's where we're at. So we're going to read chapter 14. It's pretty short. After you're done with the chapter, we're just going to answer 2 questions, and then you guys will do a journal. And then the latter portion of the period is for you guys to just make sure you're getting the vocab done from yesterday and anything else you can get done. All right, chapter 14. In all his plottings, Luke had never thought of the screen door being locked. Though he knew his own parents locked up at night, when they didn't forget, the doors of his house had always been open for him, and he'd never been near anyone else's door. Idiot, he muttered to himself. He tugged harder on the door, but he couldn't concentrate enough to make his hands work together. Each second that passed made the hair on the back of his neck stand up more. He'd never been so exposed in his entire life. Hurry, hurry, get out of sight. The door didn't budge. He'd have to turn around. Now. That's what his brain said. What his hand did was plunge through the screen. He pulled the wire away from the frame and reached through. The screen scraped the back of his hand and his arm, but he didn't stop. He fiddled with the lock inside until he heard it click. How does he get through the screen door? How did he get through the screen door?
He picklocked it.
It wasn't picking it. Picking it's kind of like messing with the lock. That's not what he did. He did something else. If you're picking something,
he pulled the wires from the screen.
Yeah, he pulled the wires from the screen, right? So you guys all know what a screen door is, right? Yeah, it's basically like a door, so it has like a mesh metal, right? It's kind of like certain windows have that mesh metal too. It's like a barrier, right, to keep out like bugs. So he punched through it and he pulled it off, right? That's what he did. And then obviously once you got the metal gone, then you could just unlock the door. That's what he did. He silently slid the screen door back and stepped past the hanging blinds into the sports family's house. Even with the blinds blocking every window, the room he entered was airy and bright. From the freshly painted walls to the sparkling glass tables to the polished wood floor, everything looked new. Luke stared. Almost all the furniture in his own house had been around as long as he could remember. Whatever patterns and designs it originally carried had long worn away. At his house, even the once orangish couch and the once greenish chairs were now all a matching sort of brownish gray. This room was different. It reminded him of a word that he'd heard, only read, never heard, he only read, pristine. Nobody had ever stepped on these white rugs with manure-covered boots. Nobody had ever sat on these pale blue couches with corn-covered dust jeans. So, again, if you're comparing his house to this house is like perfectly ornate. They use the word pristine, right? So basically everything's like very nice and brand new and like looks perfect. So he's kind of in awe of it, and he's like kind of like shocked by how nice everything looks. Luke might have stood by the door forever in awe, but somebody coughed in another room. Then he heard a strange beep, beep, beep. He tiptoed forward. Better to discover than to be discovered. He went down a long hallway. The beeps had turned into a drawn-out buzz coming from a room at the end. Remember, buzz is an example of onomatopoeia. Holding his breath, Luke stopped outside the door to that room and he gathered the nerve to peek in. His heart pounded. There was still time to escape unseen, to go back to his house and attic and a normal, safe life. But he'd always wondered. Luke leaned forward slowly, moving a fraction of an inch at a time until he could just barely see around the door. Yeah, I'm on. This is chapter 14. This is where I'm at now. Inside the room was a chair and a desk and a big apparatus that Luke vaguely recognized as a computer. At the computer, typing away furiously, sat a girl. Luke blinked, thrown off. Somehow he'd never thought about the sports family's third child being a girl. She was mostly facing away from Luke, and she wore jeans and a gray sweatshirt not much different from what the sports family brothers always wore. Her dark hair was almost as short as Luke's, but there was something about the curve of her cheek, the tilt of her head, the way her sweatshirt clung or didn't cling to her body. All of that made Luke certain she wasn't like him. He blushed. Then he gulped. The girl turned her head. Luke croaked. Before he had a chance to think of another word, the girl was across the room and knocked him down. She pinned him to the floor, his arms twisted behind his back, his face buried in the carpet. Luke struggled to turn his head to breathe. So, the girl hissed in his ear, you think you can sneak up on a poor, innocent, unsuspecting girl who's home alone? Guess nobody told you about our alarm system. A call went into our security guards the minute you stepped on our property. They'll be here any second. Luke panicked. So this is how I die? He explained. He had to explain. He had to escape. No, he said. They can't come. Oh, yeah, the girl said. Who's going to stop them? Luke raised his head as much as he could. He said the first words that came into his mind. Population police. The girl let go. Alright, so this is all we're going to read, just the one chapter. So again, we kind of discover that Luke has found who's living here. It's a girl. And she tackles him. At the end, she lets him go because of what he says here, saying that he is the population police. Alright, so now after you're done with the questions that are right here, there's two questions about the chapter. One, how did Luke get in the house? Two, who does Luke pretend to be? After you're done with that, you're going to work on a journal, which is right underneath. Somebody did it. I don't know how you did it, maybe. Unless they turned in a blank sheet. Alright, so this is the topic. So sometimes when you're faced with a great change in your life, it allows you to evaluate what matters most. So take a few minutes, think about what it is that you value, and then underneath here I have like all these different possibilities. Question, Diana? Or did you accidentally mute yourself?
I was gonna ask after you're done with the journal and the questions, what do you do?
Yeah, you should be finishing up the work from yesterday and anything else that you might have not done.
Okay.
Is it people? Is it family? Friends? Is it chasing your dreams? Is it making sure that the people you care about know it? Is it about making sure that you give to others? Is it about being someone that other people can admire? Is it about staying positive about everything? Is it about believing in loving oneself? Is it about taking care of oneself, mind and body? Is it about not taking responsibility for everything? So I don't expect you guys to feel all of these things, but you should probably have one of these in your mind as something that you value as important. So choose at least one of those ideas and then write about it. And this should be about 8 sentences long. And then make sure that you include some details about your own life that support why you think the way you do. So again, you don't have to use all of these ideas, but you should have at least one idea about what you feel is actually important in life. When you're done, again, you should be working on the flashcards from yesterday. Most of you guys did not finish that. A couple of you guys did. So questions from the book. When you're done with the questions from the book, do this journal. When you're done with this journal, do the vocab. And then anything else that might need to get completed. And that is that. Does anyone have any preguntas, questions? Yeah, there's quite a few of you that have lots of work that needs to get done. Make sure you're working on it.